Hey, Greg.
Good morning or evening, whichever the case
Hello.
may be.
Good night here.
It's very bright for you. I mean, if it was morning, you still wouldn't know it's morning here. It's so dull at the moment. Our weather has been atrocious.
It should start. Should start staying lighter later for you guys soon. I think we're going to be having our time switch this coming weekend.
Yeah. Not sure what effect that will have on the kids. I mean, they're super tired already, so.
Hello.
Hello, Juan.
How are you guys
Good
doing?
evening. Good night.
Thank you. Good evening to you, I think, and probably good morning to Greg.
10 a.m. Which means, I guess when we do our time changes, will be at 9 a.m. for me. That's fun.
Let's wait 1 minute or two to see if someone else joins.
Benjamin, I added a comment on the working meeting GitHub issue, listing out PRs that I'm tracking, 4 of which are mine, 1 is Austin's. They just need attention.
Great, thank you. I'm still working on the GitHub action to gather PRs and get them automatically added. I have some changes to add and test because I mean the person that is contributing to us is called Sudarshan, and he already delivered something that should be ready to test. Is in my list, so I will be testing that tomorrow. Thank you, Greg. Okay, let's start then. I'm going to share my screen. As always, let's start with the meeting etiquette. We would love to record this meeting to share it with the community, and I'll share it in YouTube too. If someone don't want this recording to be shared on YouTube, just reach out to me in a direct message privately, and I'll take care of not uploading this one. If no one's reach out, I'll get this uploaded tomorrow. We encourage everyone to challenge any language or behavior that is harmful or not inclusive during the meeting. We will remit or mute when someone is speaking, and if someone wants to speak, just raise your hand and you will have your turn to speak. And finally, we will apply all the time the code of conduct as always. For today, this is the agenda. First, we'll review the past week's action items, and we have the 3 topics. One from Juan, who have a discussion about what to do with the all GitHub organization, if we can do something regarding the confusion around people reaching out the all org. So he shared some comments, and yeah, we can discuss about that. Topic from myself regarding checking with you all my desire of applying to Google Season of Docs. And finally, as Greg just said, some PRs that require some attention. And if someone is interested in discussing something else, just edit the issue and add your topic, or I mean, when we are done, just share it. So, past week, we didn't capture any real action item, just quick review. We reviewed the results of the survey, unknown keywords. Let me check what is the current status, because there is not so much traction in the last days, and I think that we are not going to get much more responses. We should be around 50. Just let me share what is the final number. This is what we have right now. 46. With 14 people preferring X prefix, and a tie between hat and star. So this is what we have. I'll try to get another push in the end of the week, but I don't expect so much changes. Any comment regarding the survey?
Yeah, there was a suggestion. I think, Benjamin, you posted a link to another place where someone had suggested using a keyword in whatever system that they were using. Yeah, that. And I really liked that idea. I think I've since I had you add that as a new thread, and then I expanded on that thread in the still kind of supporting unknown keywords conversation. So basically we would default to the @ symbol, and then if the and then we would also add this this keyword. It could be a $sigil to follow in line with that other thing that would define a prefix to be used instead of the @ symbol. I don't think it'd be too hard to implement something like that. And having it a $, keyword, it would go in core, and it would allow adjustment of the processing engine. I think I'd really like Jason's opinion on this, because he seems pretty close to this topic. But I like this idea. Thinking about it initially, the only issue that we would have to define is scoping. So if we define the sigil, or if we define that prefix at the top level, does that apply to the entire document? Which we don't really have a notion of the document, because we start processing once it's pulled out of the document into the JSON model, which leaves schema resource possibly, or the dynamic scope. I think those are the only two options that we have if we decide to go that route. Dynamic scope could be weird, but yeah, I don't know. It's available for discussion in that thread. We don't have to resolve that here, but I just wanted to mention that as another option.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting idea as having it as a configurable thing. I was thinking, do we have anything else which is configurable for the individual schema level, other than like dollar schema? I don't think we do, but that's not to say that we can't. And yeah, I guess it would have to be scoped for the resource in my mind. Much like that's how all of the scoping of things in terms of processing work. Like the dynamic scope is just for handling resolution of reference locations, right?
Yeah, the only hiccup I see in scoping it to the resource is if you define an ID for a subschema that produces a new schema resource, and so you would you have to repeat the sigil keyword for that as well. So questions like that kind of get sticky. Which is why I thought about the dynamic resource or the dynamic scope as a thing, but even that can get sticky in its own way.
I mean, I would say yes, because if they were individual schema resources in their own files, then you would have to, and if you want those to be processable individually and extractable individually and still have and do the same thing, then yeah, I expect it to be bound to the schema resource.
That might render itself as a gotcha for people coming across it for the first time.
I mean, could we how is it that we word the usage of dollar schema so that subsequent resources other than the primary one being targeted? I mean, what do we do in that situation? I can't remember offhand.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good pattern to follow.
Because if we could follow the same pattern, I mean, I know it's inviting assumptions, but it feels like the right assumption that we want to invite in that situation.
It doesn't say what implementations should do when it's not there. Oh yeah, it does. If absent from the schema, resulting plate behavior is implementation defined. I think
yeah.
I think if for us that would be, or for this keyword, it would be the default is at, or whichever we decide. As far as scoping, it doesn't look like it says anything, which may be a shortcoming. It just says that it must not appear in non-resource root schemas. That's all. It doesn't say anything about scoping.
Yeah, it goes down to that. You know, if you don't want surprises, make sure you fill in all of the things that you want flaws or best practice that we don't, you know, make explicit. But well, it's not the job of the spec to define best practices in that sense. But
Yeah.
I
imagine if they use the sigil keyword to define that their prefix is x dash, then they'll probably use x dash in a nested resource, and then the validation, the meta schema validation possibly could fail because x dash is an unknown keyword in that resource because they didn't define the sigil for that resource. So the schema validation should pick it up if we have linting tools.
There's also the catch that you know, standardized meta schemas that we put out wouldn't be able to catch that validation, or wouldn't be able to validate if sigils are used, and that's kind of one of the things we wanted the meta schemas to be able to catch is when unknown keywords are used.
Why wouldn't they?
Okay, they wouldn't be without being modified.
Right, in their current state, no. But if we added the sigil keyword and then we have the meta schemas, then those meta schemas would be checked to the next version, which contains the sigil keyword. So it should, you would have to update the implementation anyway.
Yeah, but you would have, depending on what the sigil is, you would have to then modify the meta schemas. Right? You can't just blindly apply the meta schemas that we provide because we wouldn't define what the sigil is.
Yeah, it's not possible without dollar data.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to access stuff from the schema.
So actually, to my mind, that would be a very strong reason not to have this.
I would like to see an example of that. I'm not sure that I follow why it's not possible.
So if I hand you a schema and I say it's not allowed to have keywords other than this list, but you don't know what the prefix is that defines whether keywords are additional or not. So you need to look that up before you try and remove which keywords are valid or not.
No, it would be.
So if I say any keyword that has this prefix is valid, and you see an extra keyword, you only know that that schema is invalid if you know that the prefix isn't the one that's defined by the sigil keyword. So you can't validate that schema without looking up what that prefix is and then saying, oh, wait a minute, this keyword is actually okay because the sigil says that this prefix is allowed.
Right.
So that means the meta schema can't define whether a particular schema is invalid for containing unknown keywords because that depends on whether the schema itself defines a prefix that it's using. So if I give you a schema and that schema has X dash whatever in it, that schema is valid if the content of the schema itself has a sigil that says X dash is my prefix, but it's invalid otherwise.
You're thinking to use in the meta schema, you're thinking to use like a property name that has the sigil value that basically builds a regex with the sigil value as the start.
I think no matter what mechanism you use, we don't have one. Like property names would be one, yeah, with a regex value, but there's no other ones. You can't use unevaluated properties because you don't know whether they're evaluated. That depends again on the sigil value. Basically, there is no keyword that works this way. You need to reference a value from the schema to know which properties are okay.
Okay, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the nose there. If you introduce a keyword like this, you're making the meta schema no longer context free. You're making it dependent on the context of what is that sigil character. Or this is essentially the same thing as namespaces. I'm not necessarily against namespaces, but it does complicate parsing quite a bit, because then you have to do a first pass of the document to figure out, because the prefix of the namespace can be anything you want. And so you have to do a first pass to map that user chosen prefix to the global namespace. This means that you can't do that context-free parse. You have to do the pass first, and that adds a bunch of complexity, which we'd have to add like new meta schema or new schema keywords in order to do this non-context-free parsing. And I'm not sure what that would even look like, actually.
Just incorporate my data vocabulary. That's fine.
It will be very handy for other reasons.
All right.
Any
I'll have to think about that.
Thank you. Anyways, related to this interesting alternative coming from a discussion in JSON LD, do you think that makes sense having reaching out to JSON LD, saying that we are discussing similar things to see what comes out with that discussion, or is like opening something that is not it can bring us like a lot of discussions? Are we afraid about this, speaking with them, or what do you think? I will be happy to reach out and saying, hey, we are having this discussion. We will love to take care of not impacting people using JSON schema and JSON LD. We are having that discussion, and we'll love to get feedback, or I don't know. What do you think? Maybe
I still question that there's really a link between the two.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
maybe I'm too idealistic in this topic.
I think we may be overthinking it a little bit. There isn't really, spec-wise speaking, there isn't really supposed to be a way you can combine the two. If you did try to combine the two, you'd end up creating a third media type, which you can do, but this new Frankenstein file format wouldn't really have anything to do with the original JSON schema. So we wouldn't have to worry about it too much, or I don't think we should worry about it too much.
Yeah, I think it lands itself in the realm of people just trying to be creative and fancy, and it not really working out the way they expect.
They tend to do two totally separate things, and if you're trying to do something creative, it might be too clever by half.
Got it. Okay. The other topic we discussed the past week was taking a look to the scope section of the charter. And we have a live discussion that continued asynchronously in the pull request of the charter that is already ready to review. So if I saw some people submitting comments and requests for changes. So if you already haven't reviewed the pull request, take a look, because if not, probably it will be considered. I mean, it's 1 week open, so please take a look. For me, it's fine. So I'm waiting for more people to provide more comments, but I will send my approve during the week. Comments related to the scope? Okay. Cool. Let's go with today's agenda 10. For today, we have Juan, your topic regarding what to do, what better do with the old GitHub org. So all yours.
Yeah, cool. So this came up after both Benjamin and I kickstarted or restarted the discussion about the history of JSON schema, and we started digging a lot into what happened before with the old org, after the project was essentially abandoned after draft 4, and all these people I guess like revived the project in some way into the new organization that we have at this time. And then we ended up with an interesting question, which is that beforehand we were not able to regain control over the old organization in any way. We tried. I think Ben mainly seems like he has tried quite a lot as far as he have expressed. So regaining control over the old org, it seems to be not something that we want anymore, given all the work that happened on the new one. But now that JSON Schema is joining the OpenJS Foundation, and it seems like mainly once it finishes the what is the incubator phase or whatever, I'm not sure how it's actually called, then JSON Schema becomes a trademark of OpenJS, as far as they have told me in the OpenJS Slack. So now that there is the onboarding. Thanks, man. So once JSON Schema finishes the onboarding into OpenJS, there will be a trademark from OpenJS with the name JSON Schema and the logo as a consequence, which means that we can probably exploit this new thing that we got from getting into OpenJS to do at least something about the previous organization. And I think the conclusion, based on conversations with a few of the people in this call, it seems that regaining control over the old organization doesn't actually accomplish as much, given that thanks to Julian mainly, we were able to apply these redirects into the new organization. So it seems that some people are still like looking to the old one every now and then, but I think those are mainly outliers. But in any case, something that we could do now that we have the trademark, it would be to get OpenJS in conjunction with GitHub. So I also spoke with GitHub again. So in conjunction with the OpenJS trademark after onboarding, GitHub would be able to apparently rename the old organization into something else that would not be related to JSON Schema in favor of the trademark, and also force that organization to remove the logo at the moment. Which means that, for example, we could then afterwards rename the current organization from JSON Schema org to say just JSON Schema, and all the old links would redirect into the new one. So I guess the topic for discussion would be like, what do we want to do about this? Do we want to exercise this ability that we will have over the JSON Schema trademark to at least get the old one to change its name and the logo, just to not be confusing and not have any resemblance to the project as it is now? Maybe even rename the org. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Is there any particular reason why we want to move to just JSON Schema as the org name instead of JSON Schema org? I understand that having JSON Schema and JSON Schema org is confusing, so definitely want to get rid of or rename or disassociate the old one. But is there a reason for us to move into it?
I don't think there's any reason for the name other than maybe JSON Schema looking a bit nicer, but I think that's a separate discussion. I think we should treat them separately, right? One of them would be to disassociate the two organizations, then whether we want to take advantage of that to reclaim the name of the org, I mean, that's optional. I don't think there is any explicit reason, but yeah, just stylistic, if any.
I'm happy to discuss them separately.
But I guess the more immediate thing that it seems that we can kickstart even now with the OpenJS is that, do we want to proceed and make use of the trademark power that we have or we will have soon to force the other organization to disassociate? or anybody against that, I guess.
Just to make sure, someone, this is of course related, someone has asked very specifically OpenJS legal whether they feel we actually have the trademark or are able to assert control over the trademark. That's at least not a fully trivial legal question, but I'm assuming or hoping that someone has asked them that already. By which, just to elaborate, obviously we're not the original owners of JSON Schema. Chris is, and the people who came before us were. And if all of a sudden they come back and they say, hey, we're now restarting, not that this would ever happen, but if it did, and they said, we're restarting the JSON Schema org, has someone actually confirmed that OpenJS legal is comfortable with our assertion that we have taken over the abandoned trademark? If not, that's a reason to actually move forward because, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
If not, again, I'm not a lawyer, as probably none of us on the call are, but I think that's probably a reason to actually move forward with what Juan's discussing, because my guess as a non-lawyer is that that would work in our favor in such a situation, because it indicates we're attempting to defend the trademark that we're about to assert control over and saying we're doing whatever we can ahead of time to make sure that that's ours. If we didn't, I don't know. I would still probably guess, again, totally making shit up, that would be okay, but it's not fully obvious that that's the case to me.
What efforts
Legally.
have we had to have we done to contact the original owners?
A lot, apparently, over many
Yeah.
years, I think, even trying to like phone them and stuff like that, and like nothing, radio silence.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course, again, we're talking funny legal questions here. Just because we can't reach someone does not necessarily, I don't know what case law says constitutes abandonment of a trademark. So the fact that we couldn't make contact with them in this unlikely scenario, that's not really going to happen. But in 5 years from now, if Nick comes back and is like, guess what? I feel like continuing JSON Schema work. I don't know what the courts say constitutes full abandonment of a trademark.
Well, did this ever came up when
There-
applying to OpenJS at all? Because sounds like something that they would check even before accepting the project.
That's why I asked,
No,
because I
okay.
should hope so. If they're saying they're
Right.
going to assert trademark, what gives us the right to assign the trademark to them?
It,
I mean, sorry, go on.
I don't think it did. There's two intellectual property things. One is the copyright, one is the trademark, or actually, as far as trademarks go, there's like unregistered trademarks and registered trademarks. Unregistered trademarks is when you see the TM after a logo or a service, and that's representing that there's a specific legal entity that's that this trademark is talking about. And then you don't need to register that. It gives you it means certain things legally. But if someone else comes and say, wait, no, I want to use, I've been using that instead, then you can go to court and you can have a battle and you can figure out, well, you'd never had that in the first place. Since we're not even using that TM, there is no trademark. And I'm not sure what that looks like legally if you decided to start using it. The other version is the registered trademark.
So it's been a while since I looked, but TM is something you can use if you would like, but you have an unregistered trademark even if you don't use it, to my recollection. Yeah.
I know that's true for copyright.
Nope, it's true for trademark as well. So here's a copy paste.
But in any event, the legal protections for TM are not that great. If you want to, you get a bunch of additional protections if you register it, and then you get to use the R with the circle. And I'm not sure what the Patent and Trademark Office would say about that.
Yeah, so all that makes sense to me, but I don't think is directly related. So I don't think anyone is claiming we have a registered trademark.
That's probably what GitHub would be looking for. I know last time they said they won't do anything without a court order. So
yeah, so I'm assuming, okay, let's split GitHub apart for a second. And Ben, maybe you were about to answer this, although did he drop? Oh no, he didn't. He's there. Just something moved. Yeah, he raised his hand. Go.
Ben is asking for John to speak.
So I guess that yeah, separating from the whole GitHub thing, there are two things which I think are important to note, which I don't know if the second one has any implications or not. So the first one is you may remember the mystery around like who controls the domain name, and we eventually discovered that was the OpenJS Foundation. Back then it was called something else. So there was a a transfer of the domain name, and the Linux Foundation umbrella has remained in control of that since before most of us joined the project. So there's an assumption there, and probably a strong case that they feel confident in proceeding with whatever it is they will proceed with when we complete the onboarding process. The second one, which is relating to the logo, is a bit tricky. I can't remember the specifics of how I found out, but the person who originally designed the logo has since passed away, and this was quite some years ago before I was full-time on JSON Schema. So there is no one to check the copyright of the logo with. I don't know what the legal implications of that are. But yeah, that's an interesting point. So and there definitely wasn't any conversations at the time of during the OpenJS Foundation. And I think part of the completion of the onboarding process will be going through some of these finer points and working out exactly how and how much and what they can proceed with or not.
Yeah, I agree with the tone that or the points that Ben and Julian have made, that we need to probably leave this in the hands of OpenJS, get some actual lawyers involved instead of us just spitballing and trying to figure out what makes sense to us.
Yeah, that's fine with me. As I say, I just figured I would mention. Not fine with me. That's what I would do as well. Although it sounds like from the first thing you said, Ben, I'm guessing, but it sounds like they think they have the trademark already, based on holding the domain beforehand. Yeah. Okay. I would ask them very specifically, personally, and I think Juan's question relates to this. Again, it's just my opinion, which clearly is not a legal opinion, but I bet some lawyer would say that we are less at risk if we do pursue the organization because it's us asserting that us and only us will ever be able to use that name. And if we don't, and they come back again, that's going to make someone unhappy, I suspect.
I mean, I did myself and Benjamin had a call recently with one of the directors of the OpenJS Foundation, just an informal chat. But she is ex legal, so I don't know if she handles the legal stuff for the OpenJS Foundation, but I can definitely ping her a messenger to say, his situation. Just looking for something, an informal response at this time, but if you want to escalate to a formal response, then please do, and see where that leaves us. But yeah, it's definitely worth having that discussion, regardless of the whole GitHub side of things.
Yeah, this is exactly I was going to say. Let's have that discussion because Julian clearly, was inspiring how he explained it. Like there is a risk behind all of this, minimal or not. There is a risk, and it's our responsibility to mitigate or reduce any risks to make sure that JSON schema is successful. This is another aspect of that objective we have. So let's have that discussion with OpenJS Foundation and see what is their full view about everything, the preview, the all org, the trademark, the logo, and everything. So we can have everything under we can at least understand the implication and what actions are pending to be done to get those risks, if there are any, mitigated. On this point, an action for me, Ben, or us, how do we want this to be managed? Ben, do you have the open link with OpenJS Foundation? Is this an email? Is better discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I can do it as an email. I think there is a legal specific contact, and I'll do that and CC the person we spoke to a couple of days ago. So yeah, I'll take that as an action. Thank you.
And I think once you resolve the conversations with OpenJS, so I have been in touch with GitHub, mainly because I was participating on the GitHub whole enterprise thing at Postman. So I do have some connections through Postman with GitHub, to whom I spoke with. So I think if you have more clarity on the OpenJS side, I can also help with the GitHub aspect then later on and resume that conversation with them. And they seem they would be very, very friendly to help us out given these prerequisites.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. Keep that in mind, definitely.
Thank you, Juan. Any other comment on this one before jumping to the next? Okay. Next topic is mine, is related the opportunity to apply to Google Season of Docs. As we, all of you knows, we are participating in Google Summer of Code under Postman umbrella. We tried ourselves, but we were rejected. But we have the chance to put some of our ideas in other organization, Postman in this case, and we have 2 projects. And I think so far the impact in the community is positive. We have a lot of people joining the Slack server, so the number of people joining by week is much higher than what we have previous weeks. We have a good number of contributions for Bouti and a lot of people interested to kick off the project that Jason suggested. This is great. And related, the other program that Google has, Google Season of Docs. We know that we have a problem with our docs. It's not easy to be fixed, but the reality is we are receiving feedback very often about the docs. My personal, as a new joiner, my personal perception of our site and docs is like a very old city, like Rome or something like that. When people came, there was one civilization with a lot of changes. Someone else joined after that, put in some new changes. A new team joined JSON Schema, put in some new changes. And it is making for people joining the technology for the first time difficult to understand. And I think that if we get some hands in not doing something super complex, not trying to go super deeper, but at least trying to have a well-structured documentation with good index pages, with good README docs, can help us to get less friction in the journey to someone to learn JSON schema. Having said that, I love to apply and see if we can get some additional resources for improve our docs. I get some feedback regarding is JSON schema is complex. We will have some issues having people that doesn't know anything about JSON schema creating good documentation. And yes, that's fair, but I'll try to keep the change in the docs as a high level, not going too deep with very complex tutorials. It's like making sure that it's friendly in the beginning. When you need go too deep, you will still find some friction, but at least for people joining for the first time, improve the experience. Thoughts?
I think, I mean, on my side, I totally, I think, relate to what Benjamin is saying. I think the current documentation in JSON schema is definitely hard to grok at the beginning, mainly if you're coming to the project as a newcomer, which was my case actually not very long ago when I started digging into all of these and JSON bin pack. It was quite hard for me to understand what was going on. And I think it took me many iterations to actually be more confident about my JSON schema knowledge. So I think there is a massive gap in the docs, and you know, we should probably have like a better strategy to handle that long term. I mean, that was like my intention also with something like the learn JSON schema, you know, .com thing. And I think we should probably take advantage of that Google Summer of docs to improve these things, I think, in any way. But I think first of all, we need to have a strategy, because even if we apply, like, it doesn't seem like we even have a clear vision for the docs long term. And that's something that we need to work on.
I think to say that we don't have a unified vision is a bit misleading. We don't have a vision for the docs at all.
There you go.
If you go through and you look at the different docs pages, they're all different, and I think that has to do with just how it was built over time. Because we had some kind of docs in there, and then understanding JSON schema was basically just dropped in as is, and I don't want to do that with learn JSON schema, just to drop it in. I think the whole thing could just benefit from having some kind of unified documentation, maybe even to the point of just throwing away what we have and starting from scratch. I don't know. Some of that, I think, maybe requires UX, or maybe we can just go to some other sites. Node has some really good documentation that I liked. There were some others that I remember seeing, but maybe it's worth opening an issue or a discussion on UX proposals, where we go out and we say, hey, this docs site looks nice. Maybe we can pull some things from there. I don't know. Right now, the lack of a single UX in the docs makes it difficult to peruse what you're looking for, or it makes it difficult to find what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think, you know, our experience is particularly poor because it's very much a reference guide. It's not really considering, you know, what the potential different use cases are. Like, we don't really cater for, oh, this person's come here because they have a forms building use case, so how can we like properly direct people to the right resources, or explain things that are perhaps nuances when building forms, or, you know, building documentation using JSON schema. I mean, in some senses, maybe we shouldn't be concerned with those things, but also the reality is, you know, people are going to come to the documentation we do have with certain assumptions, and we need to either have a way of breaking those assumptions or guiding people to correct those assumptions. I mean, there are multiple levels at which we can look at this, but yeah, I guess there are two comments I would have is firstly, there's a new website that's pending, and obviously there's more work to be done on that, and only Benjamin at the moment is coordinating that work and potentially getting some extra help from another resource to make that happen, but it's you know, it's slow getting that progressed, and we have to work out how to prioritize that a little bit more, I think, so we can start making modifications on the new version of the website rather than the current website that we have and trying to port it over again, because we can't keep doing that. My second comment is more of a question of what's the time scale for the Google Summer of Docs?
Can you repeat that? Sorry, Ben, because I was typing something. The last
Sorry,
question.
yeah. What's the time scale? When would they need to have all the information from us and for us to have formed a plan? Because my feeling is what we don't want to do is have someone do a load of work on the old website and then move to the new website and have to port it all over.
The deadline is this week, March 24th. So whatever to apply for the program is should have. We have to have the application complete this week. Yeah. So and this is my priority right now. So I have some pre-work done in terms of how I structure the proposal. I love to. I just was putting resources in the chat. There is a framework, documentation framework called Diastaxis that looks good. It's like a solid approach for having scalable framework for putting docs in a digestible way. Greg said some good feedback, and he's using already this approach. I mean, I'm not developer experience expert, but I think that it can be a step in a good direction. We can fix everything in just getting one technical writer for this, but at least we can start fixing things and have the right framework to scale our docs properly. And as soon as we have more resources and more people with interest in contributing, so we can make some prioritization and have more content in the best places for people trying to understand JSON schema and people trying to apply JSON schema for production, because the opportunities are the use cases and everything, right? But we have to start in some way. Let's try it. Let's try it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that comes to mind is could we be hiring someone to do this work on a long-term basis? Initially reviewing and completely restarting our documentation to fit this structure and provide a better and easier to use set of documentation, and then continually providing additional articles and improving the resources.
But that is compatible with applying right now to JSON of docs, right?
Yeah. This is just in addition. It's
long term.
We can
Yeah,
think about. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, for me, a goal is putting this or any other framework in place to start including docs in a scalable and digestible way, that in a way that is consistent, not like just patches what we have right now, and creating kind of backlog with things that have to be improved and see what we can do in this application. And if everything we start getting good feedback, maybe people get some interest in contributing. Maybe we can come up with a use case for getting some paid resources to help or just contributors. So in the ideal world, if we have a lot of people or some people with that side of contributing, let's see. But this is definitely to start the movement, we have to do something. So do I have your votes to apply? This is a yes. Okay. Silent consensus. Okay.
Yeah, I guess
Thank you.
if no one is strongly against it, then yeah, let's see where it leads us.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Okay. Can we jump to the last topic of the agenda? I'm going to share again my screen. And Greg, the last topic is yours regarding the pull request that requires some attention.
Yeah, so the first one is Austin's use cases document. I had a couple things on there, just a couple small grammatical things, I think. But overall, I think it's pretty good. Just needs some more eyes on it. My output spec one is me extracting the output stuff out of JSON Schema, out of the core document, and seeing what that looks like just by itself. That it's in Markdown right now because I couldn't be bothered to put it into I couldn't be bothered to put it in the XML. Explicit annotations is my first attempt at the @ symbol for annotative keywords. I think Jason had an idea that he wanted to work on, so there may be another proposal. So that one probably isn't ready to go through just yet. I wanted to make a change to reserve dollar keywords for the core vocabulary. Make it forbidden right now. It's just recommended against for other vocabularies to use dollar keywords. But if we make that forbidden, then I think that frees us up for the core keywords a little bit more if we need to expand that set. Plus, that makes the core keywords easily identifiable because nothing else has a dollar in front of it. And then also a PR. We've had a long-standing policy that PRs need to be open, especially like spec changing PRs need to be open for 2 weeks, so it gives everybody a chance to review. I created a GitHub action that can enforce that. So this PR just adds that, and ironically, because it has not been open for 2 weeks, it is failing, which just proves the point. So let's see, that was opened March 14th. That's not the right place. So in 1 week, that should clear automatically because I've got it running on a daily schedule as well. So it should rerun every day. Yeah. That's all the PRs that are open. Those are the ones that I have open, that I have just like tabs perpetually open on, so I can continue looking at them. I'm sure there are others. There are 21 open pull requests.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I'm definitely going to be having a look at those. So thank you for drawing them to attention. Yeah.
Splitting off output spec, I really like. I'd like to see if we can fast track that actually. If you'd like me to see if we can format it as XML, it's pretty straightforward.
Actually,
we'll just have to figure out what it looks like.
I was actually thinking maybe we go the other direction and take our XML documents into a Markdown. JSON Path, which I can link this to you later, Austin. JSON Path is using a Markdown variant, and it is full IETF tooling. So you may be interested in seeing how that works. It's so much easier to read.
Yeah, we can still look at that. yeah, I'm gonna have to put a little bit of thought to that. And then brief look at my next couple of weeks, because I'm traveling out to IETF 116 in Japan to talk a little bit to HTTP APIs working group about the spec I'm working on. So I'm going to be gone like the next 3 weekends or the next 3 weeks. But hopefully I'll have a little bit of time on traveling and flights and things to be pounding out text. But like most of my communication will just be in GitHub and emails and things. So yeah, once we can get use cases and requirements in, I have another PR, which is reworking that introduction in the core spec, and then a few other things. Then after that, the annotation keywords @ thing is the logical next step. And then I actually still have to, in the next week or so, I'll actually write a little bit more about that and join that conversation a bit. Because that annotation keyword, or the @ discussion goes naturally with another issue about how we actually classify keywords. And I'll have to discuss a little bit more and write up a little bit more about what I mean by that. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing I think that's worth mentioning from my end is I'll be waiting on everybody to review the charter work before I move forward with merging that. So I won't just be looking for the usual 1 or 2 approvals. I'll be looking for approvals for everybody on that. So if I don't start seeing some reviews, I'll definitely know where to come and find you. But yeah, I don't imagine any major changes to the charter document itself at this point in time. The BCM accompanying documents, such as the any decision records, but the main bulk of that charter work is feeling complete to me. I see there's been some comments, and thank you for those, and I'll review those over the next few days. But yeah, I'll be looking for everybody to approve that before it gets merged in. And then it will need to go for approval through the OpenJS Foundation as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Is there any other topic or comment before closing today's meeting? Okay, so thank you everyone for connecting and making the time today. It was a great discussion, and I will be sharing the notes and uploading the video tomorrow. So have a good day and take a good rest, and see you in Slack and in the hub. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.